This video is going to be a film study video about Jack Campbell's performance in the Lions' Week 18 win over the Vikings. To a lesser extent, it's also going to be a commentary about some other inside linebacker play, specifically Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes, who I thought looked really good playing outside linebacker position, edge defender, as most people call it. Campbell had 12 tackles in the 30-20 win. He finished the regular season with, I think, 95 tackles, only 2 sacks. One of which he had in this game. Real physical tackle to start off the game. I think first or second play of the game against the Vikings. What's interesting about this game from a Campbell perspective is he had 12 tackles but only played 41 snaps. It's interesting from a tackles per play standpoint. Basically, one tackle made out of every 3.5 snaps. Not exactly, but close enough for me. He also had a game this year against the Bears where he had 10 tackles in 41 snaps. So one out of every 4 plays, he was involved in a tackle. I'm not sure what the normal, quote, range is for an inside linebacker, but nonetheless, I thought those two things stood out when you looked at Jack Campbell's stats over the course of the year. Now, from a Vikings perspective in terms of their offense, they did have some success running the ball, I thought, even though the final numbers was only 89 total yards on the ground. I think the reverse to Jefferson, subtract some from that. I thought Ty Chandler was causing problems, particularly into the boundary out of 12 personnel groups. And I'll show you some of that. I'll show you at least 2 plays in this film where I thought that he either did find a lane for like 19 yards or could have very easily if Campbell and Barnes weren't there. Let's get to the film so we can see the impact that he had, particularly early and particularly against the run. I do like the early down looks with Barnes, Campbell, and Anzalone on at the same time. With Barnes as an outside linebacker, I feel like it provides some coverage options, especially to the boundary. When that boundary side outside linebacker or edge defender can drop into the flats or even drop into the hook zone and deal with the running back and the X receiver in a 3-on-2 alignment, meaning the corner, the boundary side OLB, and the boundary side safety. If you can play games with that and still get surprise blitzes going at the quarterback but be sound in coverage, I think that benefits the Lions tremendously. So let's get to the film here. This is early in the game. First possession, I think, first play of the game, I believe, for the Vikings. And it's a huge gain, don't get me wrong, 11 yards for Josh Oliver. I don't think necessarily that Campbell is responsible for him out there. What's interesting to me is both of these corners are attacking. There is no one out in the flats, primarily because out of this 3-4 alignment, the Lions have brought, I think it's Vildor and Sutton. Nobody to cover Oliver. It's like a 2 deep, 2 under, I guess, which doesn't really exist, but we're focusing on Jack Campbell punishing finish of Josh Oliver. He actually went out after that, came back later and had another catch to the boundary. What surprises me about Campbell isn't how fundamental he is and how athletic. It's how he tackles people. There's a real level of physicality and finish to him when he hits people, and you'll see a couple of instances of it here. Same play, end zone angle. That's Oliver slipping out into the flats, running past the corner, past the edge defender Barnes, who tries to veer off maybe just a little bit late. But Campbell punishes Oliver for getting that 11-yard gain. Brutally physical hit, if you ask me. Vikings obviously still able to generate a first down. So, very next play, I believe, Campbell's here at Mike Backer. You got Melifonwu and Anzalone in the box with him. And this is an illustration of how Barnes played as an edge defender, if you ask me. He's a guy that makes first contact. Campbell is there. I think there's another D tackle underneath there. The Lions were able to be a little bit creative with some of the things they did. You can see that this is Campbell and Barnes. That duo is involved in a number of tackles here in this game, on run plays, I should say. Many of them away from Derek Barnes. They're trying to cut him off here with Addison. Impossible to do. Barnes down the line of scrimmage. You'll get the end zone angle of this one. Campbell and Anzalone, they're coming downhill now. There's some real violence to them. When you get the end zone angle, pay attention to how Anzalone takes this block on, because I'm going to talk about this and speak on something he does later on. He's going to take on the fullback with his outside arm free. We would call it setting it inside. Later on in the game, he's going to wrong arm a block, and it just doesn't look like there's any way that's what he's supposed to do on the particular run that I'm talking about later on in the game that I think ends up going for 19 yards. Campbell and Barnes at first contact there, both in on the tackle. One of the D tackles got pancaked. We won't talk about that one. So 3rd and 4 here. I think Campbell is off the field at this point, and it's a really unique coverage here. First possession again for the Vikings. Pascal is going to get a pressure quarterback hit. Pass ends up being incomplete to Osborne over the middle. If you were to just look at this and not talk about the players, with this being Anzalone, you'd say this looks like almost like a Tampa 2 with half-field safety, an inside linebacker running between the hashes to defend and be that third-level defensive or deep player. Sutton, who was in motion or who was running with a guy in motion, is unsure of exactly where to cover. You can see they're trying to communicate post-play there. But it's an interesting coverage, if you ask me, to get to out of a 4-man rush. I'm not sure exactly what it is. The way that it works out in terms of where the Lions players end up, it looks like a Tampa 2, but I don't think that's what it is because you wouldn't normally have a linebacker in the flats playing that Tampa 2 position, but some people do it to the boundary. So moving forward, second possession, Campbell's sack. Interesting alignment here by 2 defensive linemen, and you can see how wide Hutchinson is. On motion, he walks down, so he's occupying the tight end. This is just a trickle-down effect. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see what I mean. The 2 defensive linemen are going to stem inside. I originally thought this was a read by Campbell. It's not. He is ready to go. You can see him tapping his feet, converts the tackle for a sack. We're at a more athletic quarterback. It's possible he could have escaped here, but Campbell is able to finish it off. Here's what I'm talking about in terms of the interesting alignment. This guy's in the A-gap. He's going to stunt across the face of the center. This is a B-gap D-tackle. He's going to stunt into the A-gap. Campbell's going to loop around, and off the left edge outside of our screen is Aiden Hutchinson, who the right tackle chooses to move to, and Campbell is free running to get his second sack of the year. Ends up being a 4-yard loss. Vikings are still able to convert on that drive, work their way down into the end zone, very similar, or into the red zone, very similar to a play that I showed you earlier on. I just highlighted Campbell and Barnes' 1st and goal from the 8. Madison's going to get the carry. Same dynamic here. Barnes is closing down from the backside. He's athletic enough as an edge defender to where he can stay square and half man this, meaning play half of the dive back and half of the quarterback if the quarterback was to keep it and run around the edge. Now, this is the play that Daryl Johnson talked about where it looks like it's an RPO and the H-back tight end is running out into the flats. But Barnes, if you ask me, is the guy who makes this happen because he's not running down the line hell-bent on tackling the running back, nor is he running upfield to the quarterback. He's giving the quarterback kind of like a muddy read, a gray read, if you will. Additionally, Campbell just has a knack for finding his way to the football in all this mess. Barnes, I think, makes first contact. I think it's Alou who's in there as well, but he's really blocked into the play. This is just what Jack Campbell does. End zone angle, same play, just so you can check it out again. He's a guy who's going to make 6, 8, 10 tackles a game at minimum if he's on the field 40, 45, 50 snaps a game. He can do what you see here, which is almost disappear over the top of this offensive lineman who's dealing with a D tackle and then shed him and get to the point of attack. It's a rare trait. I think they've got these 2 guys, Campbell and Barnes, in the right spot. I didn't like it earlier in the year when Campbell was lined up as an edge defender and Barnes was at inside linebacker. I think they're better suited to do it the other way. Created a 2nd and 8. This is Campbell's not on the field here, by the way. Barnes is, but they've put Hutchinson as the edge defender down here to his customary left side. Reverse to Justin Jefferson. Just shows the athleticism of Hutchinson that he's able to just overwhelm Jefferson on this reverse and leave just no space for him to try to make a move. I don't disagree with what Johnston said that, this tight end should have handled Hutchinson. Man, you've still got a ton of pursuit here that's going to make it damn near impossible for Justin Jefferson to gain a yard, let alone gain positive yards and create, a more beneficial play for the Vikings. That was the impetus for the Lions to hold the Vikings to a field goal there. We're going to move forward 4th possession, and Barnes and Campbell are on again at the same time with Anzalone. So this 4-3 alignment. Barnes is playing Sam linebacker, basically, to the tight end side. 2 tight ends over here, actually 12 personnel. And he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Him and Josh Pascal. It ends up being a 6-yard gain. Barnes looks upset at himself. There's nothing he can do. He certainly can't go inside of this tight end. Then the edge is there for the running back to just take. Again, this is Madison. This is 6 yards. Nice example of Campbell getting hands on a blocker, attacking the blocker, pressing him off. He's got one hand on the guy, right hand, and then able to make the tackle while the running back tries to stiff arm him. Yeah, it's a 6-yard gain. It's not Jack Campbell's fault, nor is it Derek Barnes' fault. They're just outnumbered here. If you were to take a snapshot of what you've got right now, I'm not talking about Kirby Joseph's feet. I'm talking about the 4 potential blockers for the Vikings. The running back, he's 5. You've got a 5-on-4, period. And once you see what happens here in terms of the blocking scheme, these 2 guys close off this D tackle. These 2 offensive linemen close off that D tackle and combo up to Anzalone. I mean, I called it a 5-on-4. It's damn near a 6-on-4 at this point. Huge running lane for Madison to get up to. Campbell's able to make the tackle for a 6-yard gain. One more time so you can see Barnes didn't have a choice here. He's got to go outside of this. I'm talking about outside of his own player. He's got to be outside here. It's a 4-3. He's walked back as a 4-3 inside linebacker. Out of the 4-3, you can play a 3-4. You just walk the Sam up. Well, if he was walked up here and his feet was right there, first of all, the Pascal will be down here in a 5. It would be an underfront at that point. He's responsible for the edge. He's still responsible for the same gap. He's just got a different alignment to do so. So there's really nothing they can do when the D tackle gets comboed that easily. In fact, both D tackles got comboed that easily. There's really nothing that Barnes or Campbell could have done. It goes down as a 6-yard gain. Moving forward, 5th possession here. I think we're going to have a pass to Chandler out in the right flats, and Anzalone misses the this is rare for me. I haven't seen this much. He's been a sure tackler. It looks to me like he's one of those guys that if he's attacking more, he's an extremely sure tackler. But as soon as he stops his feet, which he does here, and doesn't keep on buzzing them, doesn't keep his feet active, Chandler just makes him miss with a very subtle move that I didn't think was extremely explosive. No disrespect to Chandler. He's a load, man. I would want him on my team. Campbell ends up getting credit for the tackle just because he pushes him out of bounds. I do think or suspect that on these double in-breaking routes, here and here by the tight end, I do think that Vildor had trouble with some of these reads and reactions in the game. I think he's carrying. There's nothing for him to do. I mean, he's got to have eyes that 1 and 2 are both going in, leaving Anzalone isolated all by himself up here, really guarding nothing. I don't mean to say that he's supposed to be down there on Chandler, but I think he should be in a more supporting position where he could hopefully limit the guy to less than a 14-yard gain. Hutchinson saves him nonetheless. This is late second quarter, I believe. Destroys the left guard to get a sack. Campbell and Barnes are on again with Anzalone, so 3 inside linebacker look, but it is a nickel position because Barnes is playing outside linebacker, Hutchinson lined up at D tackle, if you will. This is a 1st and 10. Like I said, I think it's late second quarter. I might be wrong on that. Barnes attacking the upfield shoulder. Campbell is deep, and Hutchinson has already won against the right guard. They certainly need some of this against the Rams to put a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford. Rams got a really solid offensive line in those run and run play action situations. I'm not sure that they have the same level of offensive line when it's straight drop back stuff. All right, so this is one that I wanted to talk about earlier, or I mentioned earlier, and I wanted to talk about during the video. 2nd and 5, 6 possessions, so we're 3rd quarter now. And 19-yard gain by Chandler off the left side to the boundary. Sutton and Campbell in on the tackle. Well, let's just see it one more time from the all-22. I think Anzalone's had a heck of a year, don't get me wrong. And, you certainly do some fast flow stuff sometimes where you'll go underneath of a blocker and then let this guy fold over the top. I don't think that's what this is here. You can see that Campbell's angle as an unblocked player, number one, is, he's inside of Anzalone. Anzalone's getting pinned by the comboing guard. There's just nobody here when Hutchinson gets upfield, number one, and number two, when Anzalone goes underneath of the combo block by the guard and the center. So guard, center, going to combo him. Hutchinson gets upfield a little bit. You're just creating a lane I don't think the design of this is for Anzalone to go underneath here. There is just nobody in this lane at all. Ends up being a 19-yard gain. Second time I've seen him do that. Some people will set fullbacks and wrong arm offensive linemen or vice versa, meaning, I think I talked about this earlier if you watched the whole video so far, set would be, get to the outside shoulder, keep your outside arm free, make the running back turn it back, presumably to Jack Campbell. There's some weaknesses to doing that as well sometimes, but going underneath or wrong arming is what he ends up doing. He goes to the right shoulder, the inside shoulder of 66, and just leaves too much space along with Hutchinson getting upfield. Again, this is third quarter. It's a 2nd and 5, so it's not like we're talking about 3rd and 9 or anything like that. That's an obvious pass situation where Hutchinson gets caught going upfield. Moving forward, 9th possession. This is going to be a play action, a concept that the Lions have had a lot of trouble with in 2023. I do think Anzalone plays it better than they did earlier in the year, particularly in that Seahawks game. So basically you're having a run fake to one side, tight end from the opposite side, run an over concept. In this case, Justin Jefferson runs out into the flats. I think there's clearly an opportunity for Mullins to get him the football. Vildor is trying to figure out, who do I go with? I've got this guy in the flats. I've got this tight end running the deep. And I think this is Muse on his first catch of the year. Got to credit to Mullins that he throws this back underneath of or behind Anzalone's flow while he's moving to his right. Inside linebacker's job there is it's an old shit read, basically, or a wrong read. Doesn't mean necessarily you do anything wrong. They're run action to one side, and then the tight end on the over concept is you've got to turn your back like both of these guys have. I mean, look, you can see how that they're similarly trained and try to identify routes, maybe peek behind you, looking for a route to get underneath of. In this case, Muse sat it down on the right hash, which is probably a landmark on this concept, and the quarterback knew that he would be sitting there. So 10th position now. I really like this play. Here's apex position by Campbell. This is a 1st and 10, so we're talking about after St. Brown's touchdown, which reestablished a 14-point lead. Now, we know that the Vikings go down here and score again. This is how strong of a tackler he is. Anzalone's involved, but there's a real level of strength and like old man strength almost, like when they grab you and they've got you. Look at the width that he's got. He's worried about an RPO or a bubble out here to Jefferson, so he's making sure that Mullins gets a give read, meaning give the ball to the running back. This is Chandler, who's a load. And when he gets into this area here on Campbell's there seems to be some recognition by Chandler that Campbell's a guy you don't want to F with. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm seeing it wrong, but I see him tackling multiple people this year, and there's a real violent finish. You'll get a real nature, if you ask me, of how much space there is for Chandler to run onto. I would call this apexed, but he's basically thatched to the inside leg or inside portion of, I think that's Romeo Okwara's body. Mesh with the quarterback and the running back. So he's worried about the quarterback keeping it and throwing it out here on a bubble or maybe a slant in behind him. So that's why he's slow playing this. Once the ball is given, now he can fold inside and get to his gap. This is tough to do, man. His gap is B gap. This is how damn good NFL level players are. He's responsible for B gap. It's not uncommon for people to do this. They do it at multiple levels. This is Ty Chandler, who's a super athletic and strong guy, especially when he gets going downhill, running behind his pads like he is at this instant right here, and he only gets 4 yards. I think Jack Campbell's a guy that when he gets a hold of you, you know it, and he's able to bring down strong running backs before they can get huge gains. This is a completion to Jefferson over the middle. I think you've got a Tampa 2 here where Campbell is running in between the hash, and they've declared the passing strength to the top side, so that's why he's opening to that side. Anzalone, the throw ends up being inside of his alignment. You got the Z receiver, Addison, tight end, and an X receiver. So they've declared this to be the passing strength, which makes sense. It's to the field. It's also the side where there's 2 receivers. So on his pass read, which Campbell is very good at getting, He's open to that side, looking for a vertical to match in the middle of the field. It's a 2-by-1 formation, though. I wonder about playing Tampa 2 against that. But in any case, Mullins gets the ball out quick to Jefferson. Ends up being a 14-yard gain. Last play that I'll show you. Most of this video is about Jack Campbell. I did digress and talk about some of the other guys. Derek Barnes particularly. Melifonwu on another one of these delayed blitzes. This has been a revelation for this team. Brian Branch is really good on blitzes. Don't get me wrong. Anzalone has made some plays on blitzes this year. This guy, to be able to do these type of things from depth, disrupt the quarterback, and I think Anzalone actually is down in on Mullins' ankles as Melifonwu makes the hit. Awesome moment, if you ask me, and especially to get an interception by Cam Sutton, first of the year, if I remember correct. Something to mention here that I alluded to earlier in the video, the versatility that Barnes gives you by playing edge defender. Barnes is here, and I think that's Romeo Okwara down there. Anzalone, Hutchinson, who's lined up over the center, and Melifonwu is blitzing. All three of them are blitzing, and you can see that they're dropping Barnes out of here, dropping Okwara out. Okwara actually gets in the window of this throw. I would almost want to call this like a 4 under 2 deep, but this corner's got a little bit more depth, so I'm not sure I'm comfortable calling it that. He may just be carrying the receiver a little bit further because I think that's Justin Jefferson up to the top side of the field. Really cool play that I think illustrates some of the things that Aaron Glenn and the defense have been able to do lately. I think by adding Derek Barnes there on the edge, which he's played some in the past, don't get me wrong, but there was a stretch of 4 or 5 weeks where I thought they had it backwards. I thought they were using Campbell as an edge defender more. I mean, when James Houston IV was injured, I thought there was a week or two while Charles Harris was hurt as well, and one or both of the Okwara brothers. I thought they had it backwards. Now it looks like they got it right. More snaps for Campbell at inside linebacker, which is his natural position, which I think he's really freaking good at doing. And hopefully I was able to persuade you of that thought during this video. And then utilizing Derek Barnes, getting him on the field. He's a better athlete than some of those guys, especially against the run. Is he a natural pass rusher? No, and I think that's why Aaron Glenn and those guys got him off the field in those third down situations. If this weekend they're able to get James Houston IV out there, a healthy, hopefully, version of him, obviously the switch would be early downs, run downs, Derek Barnes there, and then pass downs, get James Houston in opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I think that formula looks good and gives the Lions the best opportunity to get as many stops as possible. Let me know what you think of Jack Campbell's play in Week 18 against the Vikings and overall during his rookie season, and what you thought about the plays I picked to illustrate how impactful I thought he was outside of just the 12 tackles he had. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study video, just look at Jack Campbell's final regular season game as a rookie, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.